everybody, it's Kendra. So welcome to my channel if you're new, and welcome back if you've been here before. My video today is going to be part one of a two-part series of essential makeup beauty stuff. So my video today is going to be like my top 10 essential brushes slash tools. You know, if you can only choose 10 things, what would they be? What are essential to your kit? I think this is really important, you know, if you are new to makeup or if you've never used makeup brushes before and you have no idea, it can be super overwhelming. There are brushes that do absolutely everything out there, all different price points. So I kind of wanted to address this. And then part two is going to be about my top 10 makeup items. So like if you are brand new to makeup, what do I think everyone should have in their kit? So what should you have in your toolkit and what should you have in your product kit? And I also want to really just say thank you to my friend Renee for inspiring this. Renee is a really sweet friend in Boston, and she'll often like send me messages on Facebook really quick, like, Kendra, I'm in Sephora, do I buy this color lipstick or this one? Like, she's always asking me makeup questions. And I was almost gonna write her a list, like, these are my top 10 brushes you should get. These are the top 10 products you should get. And then I'm like, hey, that's a really good video, let's do that. So thank you so much for being my inspiration, Renee. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into my top 10 tools. Now, I'm not going to say, okay, you need to have the MAC number, blah, blah, blah. You need to have the Sigma, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm gonna talk about a type of brush and give a few different examples for totally suitable brushes and, you know, why it works, why I love them. So, for example, my first brush is a flat foundation brush. I love using a flat foundation brush to apply my foundation, and then I like to use a buffing brush to buff it in. So, I really like using a flat foundation brush that is made of synthetic fibers. So the one I usually go for is by Sephora. This is just their number 47 foundation brush. Nothing special, basic flat foundation brush, works great. Other options, I have the foundation brush by Real Techniques. This one is also synthetic fibers. Totally, it does the job. This is not like rocket science. You're just like applying your foundation with this. If you're doing a very thin layer of foundation, you could just use this without actually buffing it in. But I always really like to buff it in because I feel like it just gives more of that like airbrushed finish, that like perfect, dewy, like, is it skin or is it foundation look? It really blends it in, and I love that. And then finally, my last brush for a foundation brush, this is actually an art brush. So this is by Blick. Like, there's an art store in San Francisco called Blick. This is just a flat brush. I think it's for oils. I want to say it's for oils. But I actually bought this for this purpose. I thought this would be great for foundation. I've never actually used it. And look at this, isn't it fun? It's so big. It's like twice the length of these other ones. But even something like this, if you are new to makeup brushes, I would really suggest going into an art store because you might be able to find really good art brushes that will do a very similar job to what a makeup brush will do for a way cheaper price. And the quality is going to be there. So yeah, that's definitely something to keep in mind. Okay, number 2 brush, a buffing foundation brush. I absolutely love using a buffing brush to buff in my foundation after I've applied it with a flat foundation brush. I know it seems like a little bit of extra work, but I just think the finish is so nice. Sometimes I will just use a buffing brush to apply my foundation, if I don't have a ton of time. But I just feel if you do it in the 2 steps, it works so much better. I often find that if I dunk, you know, my buffing brush into foundation and put it on my hand, I just feel like the brush itself is too wet. So I really like to apply it with the flat and then buff it in, buff off the extra with a buffing brush. So the 2 buffing brushes I really love, we have the Sigma F80 Flat Kabuki. This is super dirty. And then we also have the Real Techniques buffing brush. I love this brush. It is so soft and this is so affordable. There's like a Real Techniques kit for like $15 with this, and there are 3 other brushes. I don't really even care that much about the other brushes, but this one is totally worth it. I actually bought a second kit just so I could have a second one of these because it's so good. So those 2, totally my go-to buffing brushes. I really like them also because they're very dense, they're very thick. I do have some other buffing brushes that are just, they're kind of flimsy. and they don't really do as nice of a job. I definitely prefer something that is like much more densely packed, much more thick. Okay. Number 3 brush, a flat concealer brush. Now, you're gonna notice the same thing. I like to do my concealer the same way I like to do my foundation. I like to lay it on with a flat brush, and I like to buff it in with a fluffier sort of, you know, smaller sort of buffing brush. So, the foundation, or the concealer brush that I often use is by Sigma, and this is the F75 concealer brush. So it's this one, great. It does a great job for like under eye circles, blemishes, really, really great brush. Some other options, again, this is just a cheapo concealer brush by Sephora. This does the trick. You don't need anything super, super fancy. And then the other brush I have is by Real Techniques. This is their pointed foundation brush. So this one, this is totally fine. Like, it is much larger than the Sigma one, but this will totally work for under eye circles. And this actually also comes in the kit with this buffing brush I talked about. So I like to apply my concealer, my under eye concealer, with a flat concealer brush, and then I like to buff it in. The brush I'm about to show you is probably my most used brush and probably my favorite. I love it. This is by Makeup Forever. This is their number 140 wavy brush. This is like, first of all, this guy is dense. This I love to use. I love to buff in my concealer, and then I also will dunk this in some translucent setting powder and just kind of buff that in so that my concealer is also set. This is a wonderful brush. If you only get, like, if you had to choose one brush from this whole video, this is absolutely the one. I love it. Plus, it is so, so soft. So I love this. If you've never buffed in your concealer, I would totally recommend giving it a try. It's really nice. Like, I'm all about skin makeup. I love to make like my skin, my face look really perfect. Just, I think it looks so nice. I don't care about eye makeup, lip makeup, yeah, whatever. But I think if your skin looks super flawless and perfect, you don't even need to do much else. You know, it just, yeah, make your canvas perfect, and then maybe do something with your eyes, maybe do something with your lips, whatever. But as long as your skin looks flawless, like, you're gonna look so, so, so good. If I only have like 5 minutes, I'll spend most of it on my skin, curl my lashes, put on some mascara. Done. I do have another option for a brush to buff in your concealer. This is by Stila, and this is the number 9 brush. I'm not really sure what this baby is actually called, but this is smaller. This is a little thinner than the Makeup Forever one, but you can see the shape, you know, it's a very similar shape. This is what I used for years before I got this Makeup Forever one. This like changed my life. I love this. Not really. It didn't change my life. A makeup brush did not change my life. When people say that, I just want to smack them because it's a makeup brush. It didn't change your life. I mean, unless you're like a really famous makeup artist and it really did like save your career, but whatever. So yeah, this Stila one is a very, very nice option. If you can't get your hands on the Makeup Forever one. All right, next, a powder brush. I think it's really great to have a fluffy powder brush, yeah, to apply some powder. I don't want to use, you know, like a wet foundation brush to then put on dry powder. So I like to keep a powder brush totally separate just for powder. So the first one I have, this is the one I always reach for. This is the Sigma F10 powder blush brush. So yeah, this one could totally work for both. Like, you could use powder, use it for powder and then use it for blush. I usually keep my powder brush and blush brush separate just because I don't want to have to, you know, clean off powder and then put on blush, and maybe after blush I need more powder and then I have to clean off the blush. So I don't like to do that. But I really like this size. I think this is a very good practical size. Other options. This is the Sigma F20 large powder. I don't really use this that often. It's too big. Like, honestly, this is massive. This would be fine for doing, you know, your cheeks, your chin, your forehead very quickly, but I just prefer something a little bit smaller so I can get, you know, into tighter little nooks and crannies. Another option that could be really nice for powder, this is also by Sigma. This is the F25 tapered face brush. This is a similar size. It's a little bit longer, but I think this could be really nice for doing, you know, like under your eyes, around your nose, just getting like a bit more precise. But my favorite of all these is definitely just, you know, the smaller powder blush brush by Sigma. Okay, halfway through, hope I'm not like boring you. So next, I think it's really important to have a blush brush. So a blush brush is great for blush, and you can also also use it to contour. So I'm not giving you a separate blush brush and contour brush. I won't even contour, but I think it is good to have something that is using, you're using it for color on your face, not just powder. I think powder needs to stay separate from like a blush contour sort of brush. So the ones I often go for, honestly, I haven't found a blush brush I'm 100% in love with. I think that Sigma powder brush I just talked about, that's probably the best, but that has sort of been, confined to the powder realm. So the blush brushes I often reach for. We have this NARS one. This is the NARS Yachio Kabuki brush. This is fine. I think the size is really good. I think the shape is really good, but this baby sheds on me all the time. This was $50. By no means is this worth $50. You all know my love for NARS. This was like a pure disappointment for me. I still use it because obviously like I have it and it is a good shape, but it's not very soft. Like for a brush that's $50, I would have expected it to be much, much softer. So kind of disappointed with that one. Other options for a blush brush, this is the Real Techniques blush brush. This is nice. I really like the material that Real Techniques brushes are made from. I think they're just so soft. Another good option, this is the Real Techniques stippling brush. If you're using cream blush, this is amazing. I love using one of these brushes, like these dual fiber ones that is flat on top, to do a cream blush, and it also works very, very nicely for powder. I probably wouldn't use this too much for contouring just because of the shape. I think I'd go more for something like the shape of the NARS one if I wanted to do a little blush and then a little contour down there. Otherwise, I do really like this one. This one is by Sigma. This is the Duo Fiber Powder Blush Brush F15. This could totally work for both blush and contour. I like it for contouring because it's kind of thin. Like it's chubby that way, but it's thinner this way. So this is usually the brush I reach for when I contour, but if I needed to, I could definitely use both. I could use this for both blush and contour. Okay, my first 6 brushes were all about face. You can tell I love like the canvas. I love this skin. My next brush number 7, an angled eyeliner brush. I think this is a very practical brush for several reasons. First of all, you can use it to do your eyebrows. Also, you can use it to do eyeliner. And if you need a really, really precise lip, you can use it like this. You can go like that to just line it. I feel like an angled liner brush works so much better at doing your lips and giving you a very precise lip than an actual lip brush would be. So I really love it. So some options. The one I'm using right now is by NARS. This is the number 38 brush from NARS. This I believe is called the angled eyeliner brush. And then I also have one from Makeup Forever. This is the number 270 straight brush. This one is really, really good for brows. I would probably steer clear of this one for lining, for doing eyeliner, because it's very, very stiff and it's sort of painful if you get it by your eyes. And then just a really basic one. This one is great. This is the Sigma E75 Angled Brow. That's a really great one. I would say, like, woo, there goes my NARS. I would say these two are like really, really good bets. The Sigma one is just a little bit smaller. Okay, my number 8 brush, another eye brush. This is sort of like a fluffy brush to do your crease. Now, you notice I'm not recommending, a blush or a brush to just apply your shadow, like a base shadow brush, because you know what? You can use your fingers for that. If you're in a pinch, you can use your fingers, but it's much more difficult to use your fingers to like blend in your crease and blend everything all together. So I really think it's essential to have some sort of like fluffy brush you can use just for blending everything or for, doing your crease, something like that. So the one I always reach for is the Sigma E25 blending brush. This is a nice fluffy brush. This is great. It's a good size. Another one, Real Techniques, their deluxe crease brush. This brush is awesome. I love this brush. It's densely packed. It's basically like the eye version of their buffing brush. This is a great brush. The Stila one I talked about before for, like your under eye, for like buffing in your under eye concealer, totally works as a crease brush. I think that's what this is meant to be for. I think this brush, the Stila number 9 brush, I think this is originally meant to be a crease brush, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, my number 9 brush is a spoolie. Why a spoolie? This is great for brushing out your brows, really taming your brows. When I do my brows, it's constantly angled liner brush and a spoolie brush. It's great for that, but it's also really nice. Let's say you have done really flawless, perfect makeup, and then you notice you have like a little fuzzy on your cheek. If you use your finger, you're most likely gonna smudge your foundation, and then you're gonna have to get out your foundation brush and fix it. A spoolie, you can just lightly wipe it away, lightly flick it away. And actually, if you have a little itch, a spoolie does a good job too. So yeah, I think a spoolie is a really, really great brush. You don't need to spend a lot of money on this. This is not a fancy brush. It's, yeah, whatever. With my spoolies, they don't come bent like this. I always bend them. I think they work much better than if they're unbent. So a couple options. This is by SLA, Serge Louis Alvarez. That's a French brand. And then this one is by Bedelium. This is their number 733 brush. Whatever. A spoolie brush is the brush I am like the least particular about, because it's just, you know, for brushing up my brows and like getting anything off. And then my final product is a tool. This is an eyelash curler, and this is by Shu Uemura. This is absolutely going to be in my beauty arsenal for the rest of my life. I think the Shu Uemura eyelash curler is probably the best eyelash curler out there. I do have one by Surratt. Where are you? This one from Surratt is really, really good as well. It just has a little bit of a different feel to the Shu Uemura one. It opens much wider and it's much more horizontal. Like the Shu Uemura one is much more arced, but this one is much flatter. Both really good options. I usually just reach for the Shu Uemura one because this is the one I've been using the most, and I feel like I don't even need a mirror to curl my lashes. I've done it so many times, and I have the feel for this. If you've never had an eyelash curler, I would absolutely recommend the Shu Uemura one or the Surratt one. Just depends, but I love the Shu Uemura one. Totally, hands down, my favorite lash curler out there. So there you go. Those are my top 10 makeup brushes / tools. Notice I didn't talk about a highlighter brush. You know what? A highlighter brush, you can use one of these fluffy crease brushes like to do your highlighter. You can use your fingers to do your highlighter. I didn't talk about a flat shadow brush. You can use your fingers for that. Your fingers, you know, your fingers are great tools. Use them. But I don't like using my fingers for foundation. I just think it's much more sanitary to use a brush. And my fingers, like, I can't get that perfect finish for my foundation, for my blush, just by using my fingers. I prefer to use a brush. So yeah, there you go. I hope you guys like this. I hope this was helpful and informative. I'm not sure if I'm going to do my makeup top 10 as my next video. I think my next video is going to be like my July favorites, and then my next video will be like my top 10 makeup items. So anyway, I would love to hear your opinions on these brushes. What are some of your top 10 essential makeup brushes, makeup tools? Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in my next video.